Ceylon, today's Sri Lanka, is an island draped in monsoon mist, ringed by an ocean that has carried traders, dreamers, and colonizers for 3,000 years. Yet beneath its stunning beauty runs a story of iron and ambition. The Ceylon Government Railway is a story born of colonial hunger, built on extraordinary human toil, and transformed over 160 years into the beating heart of this island nation. Welcome to I Love Ceylon, full of memorable nostalgic journeys. All aboard. To understand why the railway came to Ceylon, you must first understand what came before it. The year is 1842. The British colonial government controls the island. In the hills around Kandy, European planters are growing coffee and making fortunes. But getting that coffee down to the port at Colombo is a nightmare. The journey of 72 miles from Kandy to Colombo took 12 full days by bullock cart. Back-breaking travel over winding mountain roads. There simply were not enough carts and not enough oxen to meet the growing demand. The planters were growing rich, but they were stuck. They needed something faster, something revolutionary. They needed a railway, a line from Colombo all the way to Kandy. Surveys were commissioned. Engineers arrived from England. The terrain was assessed. Cost estimates came back. Staggering. The Ceylon Government Railway, or CGR, went looking for someone who could actually get the job done. His name was William Frederick Faviell, and he was no stranger to impossible railways. He had already helped construct India's first railway. In late 1862, the Crown agents for the colonies handed him a contract. Build 73 miles of broad-gauge railway between Colombo and Kandy. What followed was one of the most grueling construction projects in British colonial history. 3,000 men worked on the line, and they faced conditions that would break lesser projects entirely. The route up the Kaduganawa incline, 12 miles of track rising at a steep gradient, required heavy blasting, deep cuttings, and 10 tunnels through solid rock. The longest tunnel stretched over 1,000 feet. The jungle was thick with malaria. Cholera broke out among the workers. Monsoon rains triggered landslides. Progress stopped and started. One contemporary account described the construction as being done through rank vegetation, where disease ran rampant. Hundreds of lives were sacrificed. The tunneling, achieved with what were described as antediluvian tools and equipment, was later called a masterpiece of railway engineering. On the 27th of December 1864, the first scheduled train in Ceylon steamed out of Colombo and into history. This historic journey, which was primarily a test run, ran from Colombo to Pattipola, covering a distance of 54 kilometers. The line was officially opened to the public for passenger and goods traffic in late 1865. For the Ceylonese people, who had never seen a locomotive, the arrival of the first train was nothing short of astonishing. They called it the coal-eating, water-drinking, Colombo-bound metal devil. The first locomotive was named Leopold, one of 7 steam engines built in England. It was small, powerful, and utterly alien to everything the Ceylonese had ever seen. Leopold went on to serve the CGR for 60 years. The passenger coaches of those early years offered little comfort. 4-wheeled carriages with projecting sunshades, coconut oil lamps, and glass-drop windows. But people climbed aboard regardless. By the time the line reached Kandy in August 1867, train travel had become genuinely popular. And just as the railway arrived in Kandy, something else was about to change the island's history forever. In 1871, a catastrophe struck the Ceylon coffee industry, a fungal blight that swept through the plantations and destroyed them almost entirely within a decade. The planters who survived replanted with something new, tea. And tea, it turned out, needed the railway even more than coffee had. With the expansion of the tea industry in the 1880s, corporations replaced individual planters. The scale was enormous. Tea had to come down from the high country to Colombo's port, and labour, machinery and supplies had to go back up. The railway was the only way. Without the CGR, Ceylon tea would never have reached the world. The result was a building boom. Extension after extension was added to the main line to service newly built tea towns in the hill country. They were some of the great engineering achievements of the Victorian age and some of the most beautiful railway journeys on Earth. The CGR didn't stop at the hills. Over the following decades, the network spread to cover the length and breadth of the island. By 1928, Ceylon had one of the most comprehensive railway systems in Asia relative to its size. From the burning north to the fishing villages of the south, from the ancient ruins of Anuradhapura to the colonial elegance of Gaul, all of it reachable by train. In 1934, a young Ceylonese engineer joined the CGR. His name was B.D. Rampala, and he would go on to transform the railway more profoundly than anyone, since William Faviell built it. Rampala rose through the ranks at extraordinary speed. By 1949, he had become the first Ceylonese chief engineer and general manager, a milestone in a country that had, only the year before, won its independence from Britain. From 1955 to 1970, Rampala led what became known as the Golden Age of the CGR. He rebuilt tracks to handle heavier, faster trains. He upgraded major stations across the island. He put punctuality and passenger comfort at the center of everything. He also introduced a new generation of named express trains with proud Sinhala names that became iconic in their own right, crossing the island with speed and dignity. It was Rampala who oversaw the transition away from steam. Having used steam locomotives since 1864, under Rampala's leadership, diesel locomotives were introduced from the mid-1950s onwards. By the early 1970s, steam was gone from regular service, and the railway had entered a new era. In 1956, the Institution of Locomotive Engineers in London recognized Rampala as the finest train engineer in Asia, a Ceylonese man running a Ceylonese railway, acclaimed by the world. By the time of independence in 1948 and in the golden years that followed, Ceylon's railways had become something more than mere transport. They were an indelible experience. Today, international travel publications consistently rank the Kandy to Ella route among the most spectacular train journeys on the planet. Almost every tourist who visits the island takes this train ride for an unforgettable experience. Not every chapter of the CGR story is glorious. A railway covering 1,500 kilometers through challenging terrain in a country prone to monsoon floods and landslides was always going to face tragedy. There were serious derailments in 1928 and again in 1964, disruptions caused by severe floods, and as Sri Lanka descended into a brutal civil war in the 1980s, a bomb planted on a commuter train in Colombo killed 70 people and wounded hundreds. The Northern Railway line, the route to Jaffna, was effectively severed by the war and remained out of operation for nearly 3 decades. But none of these disasters, as terrible as they were, prepared the world for what was coming on a sunny December morning in 2004. Sunday, the 26th of December 2004. Boxing Day. Train number 50, the express to Mahathara, known by her name, Samudra Devi, Queen of the Sea, left Colombo's fort station shortly after 7 in the morning. She was carrying well over 1,500 ticketed passengers, plus an unknown number of additional travelers who had boarded along the way. At 9:30 in the morning, As the Queen of the Sea reached the village of Paralia, 93 kilometers from Colombo, the signals turned red. The driver stopped the train. He sat and waited. A massive tsunami hit the south coast of the island. 9-meter-high waves picked the Queen of the Sea up from her rails and flung her against the trees and houses lining the track. The carriages crumpled. The water flooded in and did not stop. When the waves subsided, the death toll reached an estimated 1,700 people. Only around 150 survived. The Queen of the Sea disaster remains, to this day, the single deadliest railway accident in the history of the world. The war ended. The tsunami's damage was repaired. The southern line was upgraded to handle trains running at 100 kilometers per hour. The northern line was finally restored to Jaffna in 2015. Sri Lanka Railways now moves more than 100 million passengers a year and 2 million tons of cargo. The network remains the same 1,508 kilometers of broad-gauge track, threading through some of the most astonishing landscapes on Earth. The tunnels that Faviell blasted through the Kaduganawa hills in the 1860s, with antiquated tools and at a cost of countless lives, are still in daily use. In 1984, a British tourism consultant visited the locomotive sheds near Colombo. He found dozens of Victorian steam locomotives, many still serviceable, gathering rust and dust. 2 years later, with the support of the Sri Lankan government, a dream was realised. The Viceroy Special, named in honour of Lord Mountbatten's wartime train, was launched. Today, the Viceroy Special is the only operational steam train in Sri Lanka. It runs on all lines across the island, hauled by locomotives from the 1940s and 50s, the last survivors of CGR's steam era. The carriages are fitted with 19th century period fittings, teak-trimmed wood panelling, Edwardian ribbed fans, and an elegantly appointed restaurant car. Modern air conditioning makes it comfortable. The restaurant serves 4-course meals. The bar is well stocked. But what passengers really come for is something no air-conditioned carriage can offer. The chance to climb into the locomotive cab, to hear the firebox roar, to feel the steam building beneath you, and to lean out as the mountains of Ceylon come rolling past, exactly as they appeared to the first travellers who made this journey 160 years ago. The coal-eating, water-drinking, Colombo-bound metal devil, born of colonial ambition, built by extraordinary hands, scarred by war and catastrophe, beloved by a nation. The Ceylon Government Railway and the Sri Lanka Railways that carries its legacy is not just a transport system. It is a living archive of everything this island has ever been and everything it continues to become. I Love Ceylon carries some iconic railway posters from the 1940s. The Safeway Railway by G.S. Fernando, Ruins at Anuradhapura by David Painter, and our iconic retro-style bestseller of the Nine Arches Bridge in Ella by Mahen Chanmugam. Grab one at iloveceylon.com with worldwide shipping. Or come visit us in person at our stores in Ella, Ahangama, Marissa, Unawatuna, Gaul Fort, and Cinnamon Lakeside Hotel in Colombo. So tell me in the comments, what is your favourite train journey? I Love Ceylon. We sell the nicest things.